The Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police essentially said, she used the word abaddon, that Wayne Couzens was an exceptional case, a bad apple, as it were, a one-off, and that everybody else would be appalled by his behaviour. Do you agree that he's just a one-off?
Good morning, Trevor. First of all, what I would like to say is that the majority of police officers are good, caring officers who are there for the right reasons. Wayne Couzens was a monster in uniform. But unfortunately, there is a culture where he was allowed to flourish, and the WhatsApp group that he was a part of, and other people are, is just one sign of that. And I've heard other comments about right across the country about this sort of culture existing. I have experienced it, and I feel that it is time for all police officers and all members of the public to stand up and say enough is enough.
You just said WhatsApp groups are. Are you aware that these kinds of WhatsApp groups still exist amongst police officers?
I am aware because I even spoke to one of my colleagues yesterday, and when officers, whether they're male or female, some of them are calling it out, and when they do call it out, they are then denied job opportunities, contracts are not extended, and they are the ones who get vilified. In my view, what we should be doing, and I've talked about this before, is there should be a support bubble around individuals who are strong enough and brave enough to fight this. But it should go one step further. We should be actively encouraging people to come forward and say, this is not right, this is what's happening, and let's take action together. But moving on from that, it's not just about police. This is a societal issue. And when we talk about deaths, there are more deaths through domestic violence than there is through counter-terrorism or knife crime. Yet we have task forces, we have units that deal with those particular crimes. How come we don't have anything like that for domestic violence? How come we don't have the same sort of money being spent on it?
I'd like to come back to the wider set of issues in a moment, but just sticking with the police for the moment, is it your belief that there could be other Wayne Couzens types of people currently wearing the uniform, carrying a warrant card, and that the current vetting procedures and management procedures of the Met and other police forces simply won't be picking them up?
I have real serious concerns about the vetting procedures. This man not only got through the vetting after indecency offences in 2015, in 2018 he was taken in the Met. He was then given a gun to carry on the streets of London, so that was another form of vetting. I believe there are other individuals who have got questionable backgrounds who should be being looked at, not just in the Met, right up and down the country, and I think we have missed that. And instead of looking backwards, we should be looking forwards and making sure that those individuals are targeted now.
Do you think that that means that to understand how to target them, that there should be an independent inquiry into the vetting procedures?
There should be an independent inquiry, but in addition to that, everybody who works in policing now should be re-vetted. Those people who have got through the vetting procedure 20 years ago, 30 years ago, all of them, every single person needs to be reviewed, and if anything comes up in their past, and it doesn't have to be a conviction, it just needs to be come to notice, because this man did come to notice. So every person should be re-vetted and reassessed as to whether or not they are safe to be working with members of the community and members of the public.
To be clear, every police officer should go through the vetting procedure once more. Is that as a one-off, or do you think that's something that should be done periodically every few years?
It needs to be done now as an urgent measure to reassure the public and rebuild the trust and confidence that policing has lost. But it needs to be done on a regular basis so that we don't have anybody who can even come close to the actions of Wayne Couzens. We need to make sure that we restore that trust and confidence. And in my view, you know, I've heard your previous guests who've spoken about the next steps, and the Commissioner has reassured them that she's going to take action. Well, I haven't actually seen the Commissioner standing in front of a camera saying, I'm sorry, and now I want to listen to you. I've heard her say sorry, but I haven't heard her say, I now want your views. I want to set up a focus group, an urgent task group. I've heard the Houses of Parliament were also guarded by Wayne Couzens, and there's going to be an urgent review and inquiry into that, and there's going to be a conversation with the Commissioner. But what about normal people? What about the normal people who are walking around the streets of London? Who's talking to them? Who's listening to them? And I accept that the Commissioner's contract has been extended by 2 years. Well, let's make it a positive 2 years. Why, from now, the Commissioner has got 2 years to turn this around. She needs to be taking immediate action. And go on.
You think she's the wrong person to do this job, don't you?
It doesn't matter what I think. The decisions have been made, so we have to live with that. But now it's about making that positive difference going forward. And over the weekend, Scottish police have decided that if a lone officer stops a female, they're going to put their radios on loudspeaker so they can speak to the control room. How come we're not hearing that from the Met? All we've heard is flag down a bus. Well, that's okay, that's fine for the first day, for the first 24 hours, but we're not in the first 24 hours now. The Commissioner and the top team have had time to think about what's the next steps.
OK. Can I return to the wider point that I think you wanted to make, which is about the culture? And this is not just a question that I think applies to the police, but pretty much to every workplace. But you can tell us something about this. How is it that you think that Wayne Couzens, with all the points that you've made about him being identified, people knowing he'd exposed himself and all that, how is it that nobody said anything?
Trevor, I wish I knew the answer to that question, and I would be surprised if no one did say anything. I think that in the coming days and weeks, we may find that individuals did raise issues, but they were just not acted on, because there isn't that support, there isn't that strength of feeling to take matters further. And in a lot of cases, the canteen culture is such that, oh, she couldn't take a joke, it was just banter, it meant nothing. And I wouldn't be surprised if in the next few weeks we find that people did raise these issues.